So here's the thing, we see more and more of this going on all over the world. It's not just happening in one place. It seems like it's a trend. Everywhere we see people bringing statues down or demanding that the statues are taken down. And the mayor of London has actually said he will reevaluate all the monuments in London to see which ones need to be taken down. Dennis, what's going on, man?
Well, actually, I think it's an interesting phenomenon that's taking place. We're experiencing the same thing here in the U.S. And before I really kind of get into everything, I just wanted to invite everybody, or welcome everybody into my backyard. So, I got a few requests to broadcast from back here. People have seen some photos of it and stuff that I've posted. So, just real quick, a little tour. That is my pool in the background. I can't get it all in the shot because I'm not that talented with camera placement. But yeah, as far as the topic goes, it's a really interesting phenomenon that is happening, where these statues and monuments are being torn down, and it's interesting because there's a lot of controversy over it, like here in the U.S. And in some ways, it seems as though we're trying to either forget or erase our history. So I think it's something really interesting because you can look around the world, and we all seem to like applaud and cheer when somebody when like a dictator statue gets taken down or something like that. But I think that there's also another side to that as well. And what I mean by the other side is just simply that when the U.S. When we were at war with Iraq. And we toppled Saddam's statue. I don't think, over here in the U.S., there was a lot of cheering and so forth. And I saw some cheering as well from Iraqi citizens. But I think that it's also interesting because, there's no way for like a common citizen like myself to really know what's going on in another country. So we looked at it from a very myopic perspective, as opposed to, what could the people of Iraq be feeling when they see that statue toppled?
Okay, yes, agreed. Statues have become a symbol of heroism. Heroes get statues and villains get their statues pulled down. Not just Saddam, Stalin had his statue pulled down. And now we are seeing statues. There was an era, okay, let's put it this way. There was an era back in the 50s and 60s when there was a consciousness and awareness which I won't say erasing history. I think it was re-evaluating history, because history has been presented in certain ways to us.
Of course.
While I think after the 70s till now, there was an era of acceptance, No one questioned what's where. And one of the reasons was, we had this whole show yesterday about localization. Mm-hmm. Things were very localized. Somebody said sitting in Picayune, Mississippi, did not, Memphis, Tennessee, did not really have a broader vision of what's happening in the rest of the world. When I mentioned the Deep South, it's because New York is seeing a lot of people coming in. You're sitting in London, you see a lot of people coming in. Right. Your Hong Kong, major metropolises, business centers is fine, but beyond that, people live their own localized lives. But with the internet, the most amazing thing that's happening, because we're seeing it starts in America, George Floyd, goes to UK, goes to Europe, Brussels, Denmark, Finland, Sweden, everywhere. People are not just revolting in agreement with what's happening in the US, but they're also reevaluating their own history. They're also reevaluating what's going on. The Leopold II statue coming down. There's so many statues are coming down. I think people are questioning and reevaluating of what they've been taught in school and by historians, and then are questioning, was all that right or wrong? And maybe it is not just a reevaluation, but a complete trajectory or a direction. I think civilization will take a complete unique direction now.
Yeah, the only thing I kind of disagree with to a point is simply that one, it's just curious to me because in looking at this topic this morning, I looked at is it really that we're putting statues of heroes, monuments of heroes up, and I look at somebody like George Washington. So George Washington's statue was recently during the protest; it got torn down, and you know what? I've never heard of George Washington as being a hero. I've heard that he was the first president of the United States. I was never taught that he was a hero. I never, like, none of that. And so it's
But
really
that is-
interesting.
But that makes him a hero, no?
What makes him a hero?
In
That he was
some- Sure, first president of the country. That's yeah, okay, no, maybe not hero, but
Yeah.
they're idols.
See,
They
I
made
look at
history.
it. I look at it like it takes and it marks a time in history. So we're going to remove the statue, but at the same time, we're not going to take and remove his picture from the White House of all the 45 presidents that that are up there. So I'm just simply saying, and if you want to say that, oh well, he was a slave owner, so were all of the aristocrats back during that time, right? I mean, at least here in the United States, I think we have to remember that there was context to that, and not just that these were horrible people. It's the way that the world was at that time. Case in point, why is it all of a sudden become like we're tearing down statues of the 10 Commandments? So there's no hero there. There's not even an individual that you can be put on that. And we're in what we like to say is a Christian country, but at the same time we're allowing people say, oh it's offensive to me because I'm not a Christian, so I don't want to see the 10 Commandments, and so they file lawsuits, and then the 10 Commandments comes down. So why do we need to take away statues like that? That has nothing to do with anything.
Well, it's not just the statues. Now that you mentioned, his picture is going to stay in the White House, but it's also going to stay on your dollar bill.
Mm-hmm.
You can't recall $1 bills and say we're going to remove George Washington from it.
Right.
And likewise, now there's a whole thing on internet about Winston Churchill, who,
right.
But you're right. At that time, then you can go and question just about every leader of the ancient world and the modern world, because wars, expansion meant atrocities. What Japan did to China was severe atrocities. What happened in Vietnam by either party is atrocities.
Sure.
And people who dropping nukes, that was atrocities. So then if we would have to start questioning everybody for what they've done. And frankly, by the time we're done, there'll be no heroes left.
Right. Well, you know what? And you talk about the nuclear bombings and stuff. And so when you look at that, you look at some of the monuments that we've kept. You look at some of the monuments that get kept, and it really, and I'll only speak to the U.S. But when you look at the monument of Hiroshima, why isn't that being torn down? We bombed a lot of people. Like, why are we not taking that down? Because it represents strength, it represents power. And so what I think is happening is and I've said this many times on this broadcast, is that from a psychology perspective, we attach emotion to things that really are more neutral. So for instance, take a look at a picture. Take a look at a picture and I can't pull it up right now, but there's actually a picture, and it's just simply about perspective. And it looks like a mother lion is eating her cub. But you turn the camera around.
Ouch.
You turn the camera around, and all she's doing is picking the cub up the way that mother lions do. So it really, what we're talking about with a photograph, what we're talking about even with video, is that it is marking a moment in time from one perspective. So I listen, I understand that there were monsters throughout history. I totally get it. I just am simply saying, why are we not taking and destroying we have a Holocaust museum here in the United States. We have a Holocaust Remembrance Museum. Why don't we tear that down? There's plenty of people in this country and I mean, they're the same people that think that the earth is flat, I'm sure, but that they will deny that the Holocaust ever happened. So, I mean, why don't we tear that down? It's just really interesting, the ones that we decide to tear down versus leave up. And so it's I don't understand the phenomenon, truthfully.
Maybe it's just a movement which is going on, and it's targeting a certain kind of monuments. People are saying my volume is too low. I've actually tried a new mic today, and I don't really have it in control. Can you please confirm if you can hear me now, Dennis? My volume's okay for you?
It seems a little bit lower than normal, but not terrible. It could just be that maybe your mic's a little bit low or something. I don't know.
I've increased the gain now. I hope. Just give me a second, man. Let me just be sure that otherwise no one can hear me, and that's no good.
Actually, I can hear you a lot better now that you've adjusted that.
Right, I've adjusted that. No noise. Everything's okay, right?
Yeah, everything's fine.
Cool, because I don't have an ear, the cover and whatever. All right. So yeah, if we're going to reevaluate history, I fully agree with you that we need to go and reevaluate just about everything that has happened, all the atrocities. But like I said, if we go do that now, then there'll be no heroes left, and there'll be no history left, because history, Britain, I mean, they colonized the world and raped and pillaged and ruined everything.
Sure, but one person's history is another person. One person's hero is another person's terrorist, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So how do we get a grip on this? But at the same time, on the flip side, it does need reevaluation, Dennis, because we have probably been celebrating the wrong kind of people.
Yeah,
I mean, we clip history and we see just what we want to see. We don't really see the whole picture. I don't know if there's something wrong with that, because if we start teaching people that, you know, this guy who conquered such and such, Columbus, Vasco da Gama, you know, whoever, everybody, that they had to commit atrocities, kill people, rape. And I'm not saying they had to, but they did.
They did.
If we go back and reevaluate everything, then maybe we should just say, you know what, let's just forget everything that happened. No heroes, let's build new heroes. And then, God forbid, Donald Trump and Imran Khan will be our new heroes. That's even bloody scarier.
Well, sure, and I think so. I think if we take a look at somebody, you know, where that's not current, let's look at like Churchill, right? I mean, what was I taught? Living over here in a Western country, America, what was I taught about Churchill? He was an instrumental part of the ending of World War II. But let's talk to the African.
Yeah.
Let's talk to the Africans and see what their opinions of Churchill are. Let's talk to Indians and see what their opinions of Churchill are. I mean, listen, colonization, that was what was going on then. And so I think it's really interesting. I agree that we need to take and reevaluate, but I also think that it's important to understand that there was a different context. There was a very different context going on back then. And so it just, you know, to just take and eliminate it. I personally, I am one, I like memorabilia. I like history. My first degree is actually in history. And so I find it fascinating. I think that we're pretty simple creatures, and I think we need reminders. The reason we have things like the Holocaust Museum is so that hopefully that type of tragedy and disgusting behavior never repeats itself. I'm not saying that it's not going to, but I think as humans, we need reminders of that. When you take and let's talk about why are we putting people up as heroes, right? Because one person's hero is another person's oppressor, especially when we talk about war heroes, right? Whoops. So I just think that there's a lot. I think that it's a very complex issue. And perhaps one of the solutions is before we take and put somebody, you know, take a statue down, let's replace it. Let's replace it with something new.
The reason I'm sitting quietly is I'm really confused. A lot of these statues were put up by the very people who are in the statue. They were leaving their mark in history in form of art, and then a lot of statues came later in the past couple of 100 years, and they were in celebration of their achievements for a given people at a certain time. Yes, they were tyrants to another, but for a certain people, they were heroes. While Britain was colonizing, for Britain, they were heroes. For anybody else, they were tyrants. And I keep giving Western references, the same in the East. I mean, the Mughals and the Mongols and everybody, and the Turks, they all did the same thing.
Right.
And everybody celebrated themselves in history. In Egypt, you know, you hear one after the other that one pharaoh comes and he actually goes and erases all markings of the previous pharaoh just because he didn't like him. Said erase him from history, and his record from history is removed. Whereas a lot of these statues, and if we go beyond statues, are manuscripts, history, written, poetry, music. You know, etchings on pillars and stones. They're all tainted. None of it is really the complete 360 degrees of history.
Absolutely
It
not.
it presents everyone in a good picture, while everyone, every event, every war had a dark side.
Absolutely.
I mean, Ashoka the Great is given as one of those great Buddhists, and propagating peace. And Ashoka's stones are spread all over, Pakistan, India, Afghanistan, everywhere, with the edicts of peace and love. But before that, he killed thousands and thousands and thousands of people when he was a warrior.
Right.
So we kind of clip off the dark side and just look at the good side and celebrate. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And that's what I want us to have this discussion here.
Yeah,
is it okay to celebrate just the good side? Or if we look at the dark side as well, then frankly, our history's fucked then. Every bit.
You look at history, FQ, and who writes history books? The victor. And I will guarantee you that my history books don't read the same as your history books, right? I mean, they don't, because it doesn't fit the same narrative. So I think that what we're really talking about, like, let's take certain people out of this. Again, now what we're trying to do is we're trying to almost kind of say that this doesn't exist or this didn't happen. And I understand reevaluating, but let's have a conversation about it. I mean, again, I personally think that we are an intelligent species, regardless of how people behave, and especially during protests and viruses and things like that. I think that we have the ability to be extremely intelligent, but I think we need to look at all sides. No one person was, there's only a few people in history that we've determined or have been divine or sent from God. But I mean, I've never heard that about Winston Churchill. I've never heard that about George Washington. Look at Thomas Jefferson. Look at a lot of people that have monuments. I mean, should we just take down Mount Rushmore? Should we just take that down too? Yeah. I mean, I think it's just interesting because you're talking a different time in history, and if all we're talking about is people that did racist things or behaved in a certain way, then why isn't, in this country, you've lived here, why isn't Lincoln? Why isn't he everywhere? He's the one who stopped the Civil War. He was the president during that. Slavery was abolished because of him. So why don't I see more pictures of that? I don't understand. There were times in history. You look at you brought up Egypt. And you look at you look at some of the they're still like the Sphinx, right? Look at these things, and these were actually like these were terrible statues and representations to Christians. So why don't we take those down? Why don't we just raise the earth, level everything, and start over so that it fits our new narrative? I just don't agree with that. I think that tearing it down is bad. Reevaluation is good, but let's talk about it. Maybe we shouldn't be worshiping human beings as much as we do.
You said something really interesting. Fits the new narrative. What is the new narrative? That's the complete different discussion.
Right.
You go to Netflix right now, and we had this discussion in one of our early episodes. You can actually right now on Netflix go and watch a show called Ertugrul, and you can also see a show called The Last Night, and The Kingdom of Heaven, and Temujin, and the Mongols, and they're all talking about the same historical event. It's happening in the same era. It's about the same 100 years. One is from the Muslim perspective, one is from the Mongol perspective, one is from the Christian perspective. The Knights of the Templar and the Ottoman Empire. They're all telling the same story. And what's more beautiful is it's all running on Netflix, which is really just a business center. They don't give a damn whose history. They want to make money from their subscription. And all these narratives are playing side by side. You watch these shows simultaneously, and you're like, what the fuck? Which one is really a hero and which one is a tyrant? I mean, the Crusades, the Christians are attacking the Muslims. From a Muslim perspective, they're attacking the Christians. They're fighting over Constantinople. They're fighting over Jerusalem.
Right.
So what is the new narrative? Should the new narrative will be that, forget everyone, they were all tyrants and heroes, screw it, let's build new heroes. And like I said earlier, that's even scarier. We would have BJ and Donald Trump and Imran Khan as heroes, God forbid, what the hell?
Sure, and
Dennis, just hang on, man, hang on. Check this out, man, check this out. This is the only fucking thing somebody can ask. That's all they give a shit about.
Well,
Now, if this is not racism, what it is, man?
I don't know. I don't know whether it's racism or not. I don't know that. I don't know.
This dude is not even God believing, man.
I don't know. I get. There's no way I can possibly like figure that out. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Actually, like put his name back up. Maybe we need a statue of that guy.
Yeah, he needs a statue. Maybe
we need a statue. Maybe we need some sort of thing to memorialize it. Faisal, I just think that maybe what the new narrative could be is that we stop so much of the hero worship. I mean, if you look at, let's just talk about heroes for a minute, because it's interesting. When I drive down the street, it's all I see, because, we have healthcare heroes now, right? Healthcare heroes that are on the front lines of the pandemic, the front lines, Faisal. How about they're just going up and doing their jobs? Let's look at the other side of this. When we label somebody as a hero, guess what? That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure. Yeah. Now they have to live up to it. We know that there's a direct correlation between putting people up on a pedestal and PTSD. We know this from a psychology perspective. And what do? We call them heroes. In fact, we're not even just talking about emergency room. We're not physicians and nurses. We're talking about those that take care of the elderly. I'll have to do this. I'll have to take some pictures because it's a conversation every time I leave the house, and I drive past a what I like to call an old age self-storage home, because that's truly what we do here. Is we warehouse old people, and so but all outside.
Old people. Look at you the way you warehouse old.
That's people. What we do. That's exactly what we do. It's old person self-storage, the same as we hoard old people, like we do possessions. So it's not like we're taking care of them. We're warehousing them. So I'll have to get some photos of this. But you drive down the street and all you see is, heroes work here, heroes work here, heroes work here. To me, something I think that maybe what we need to do is change the definition or redefine what a hero actually is. Not somebody that just gets up and goes to work every day. I got called a hero being a firefighter. I wasn't a hero. I wasn't a hero at all. I went through, most of my days were filled with absolute mind-numbing boredom, truthfully. And they were peppered with exciting events every now and again. Most everything was routine. It was boring. It wasn't that much fun. It wasn't exciting. And you know what? Whenever I had to take and go to a heart attack of somebody that had died of cancer, you think the news was there covering that? Absolutely not. What they wanted me to be in front of a fire, right? Something salacious, something that makes good headlines. So I think maybe what we want to do is let's redefine what a hero is. Let's stop using words like, they're making such a sacrifice. Or really? I didn't sacrifice anything. I didn't sacrifice anything being a firefighter. I got up, I went to do my job, and I got paid very well. So let's redefine it.
No, the doctors today are heroes. But you've raised my mind's strange today. But you've made me think something completely fucked up. Is that maybe we are just declaring them heroes because we know we are screwing them up, and we want them to feel better. We don't want them to feel horrible about it because we've thrown them in this thing where we could have stayed home and not gotten sick. Yes, the earlier ones when people didn't know and people got sick, yes, the doctors were really, it was nobody's fault. But now if you're getting sick, if you're running about the place and the governments are screwing up and making people sick, then I think we're just fleecing these doctors, really risking their lives, taxing them unfairly, and just so they don't feel bad or refuse to work. Oh, you are a hero. Oh, you are such a hero. Oh, you're such a hero. Oh, we love you. Let us celebrate you that we screwed your life up. Oh, we killed your dad because we couldn't wear a bloody mask.
Right.
Yeah, and so now we're calling them heroes. So I think, you know what? All these people, all these warriors and presidents and slave drivers and whoever's, I think they weren't as bad as the people who either celebrated them or did not celebrate them. There were people who celebrated them. There were people who revered them. So if Winston Churchill was such a jerk, the thing is, at that time, everybody treated him like a hero.
Correct.
This is Winston Churchill. People don't know this. This actually is Winston Churchill. Well, not this. That's different. This is Winston Churchill.
Sure.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So,
Right.
you know, he raised the whole nation and the whole thing, the World War II. Yes. So for the Brits, it's fantastic. Yeah. So I don't know where we go from here, man.
Well, I don't know that there. I think that the only place to go, and again, I'm going to just stick with my position on this, because I'm going to stick with my position. Let's change the words that we're using, and change the words that we're using. It's kind of like this, and this is a little off topic, but it illustrates the point. Is that I'm so sick and tired of hearing parents go, "Oh, I sacrificed so much for my kids." Really, you sacrificed? What the fuck did you actually sacrifice? I mean, the truth is, like, people ask me that, like, oh, well, don't you think a good parent makes sacrifices for their children? No, I don't. I do not think that. And the reason is because, listen, did I go without? Did I work extra hours? Did I go without luxuries so that my kids could have more? Yes, I made choices. I made choices to do that. As far as being a hero, look, man, that at the end of the day, the reason I was a firefighter, at the end of the day, it paid really good. I made a 6-figure salary. I worked 9 to 10 days per month, 120 days on average per year. So let's talk about the other side of it. And as far as like here in the U.S., the firefighters that actually get killed in the line of duty, very, very, very low. It's very low compared to how many, people are on the job. So I think we need to stop looking at these words and understand whoever it is, they always have a different side, the same as you and me.
Okay, you've raised the parent thing. I'm gonna say something here with a 99% chance I'll be screwed for it.
Perfect.
I will pay the price for it. But yeah, you see, yes, parents do make those sacrifices. But really, a sacrifice would be where somebody took a baby and shoved it at you. Now you're responsible. Like, oh shit, I'm gonna have to make sacrifices to raise this baby. The first choice you made was to have that baby.
Mm-hmm.
So if I buy a Mercedes today, with it will come a higher insurance, higher monthly payments, higher maintenance. I made the choice to buy a Mercedes. I'm not really sacrificing shit for it. So I'm really crossing that thin red line. You have the baby. You chose because you wanted to have a little toy, the bundle of joy. So you get a baby, and now begins the price you pay for it. And the price is, that's right, you will have to stay up nights, and yes, you will have to, take care and put him or her through school, get him a job, give them education, do whatever sacrifices you make. That's a choice you made. So it's not really a sacrifice. That's the price you paid for having a baby. And you know what? Nobody put a gun to your head to have a baby. You made a choice.
That's correct.
You could have spent, only 50 cents would have stopped that.
Yeah, 50 cents probably would have stopped it. And what I'm saying, FQ, is just that, like, you look at these words that we're using, and somebody in the feed put that doctors are heroes, and ask them if they're heroes. Listen, I have a feeling most of them are going to be like I was and say, listen, I just get up and go to work every day. I made a choice to go into a certain profession, and this is what I do. It's not heroic. This is what I do because I want to do it. So I think that there's a whole nother side to this, and coming from an occupation where that term was thrown around. Truthfully, in my world, like calling someone a hero, that was you might as well have been calling them a foul name, because it wasn't ever said in a positive way. It was like, oh, hey, way to go, good job, hero. It was always said sarcastically. So even the people in these positions don't find themselves heroes. That the community gets to decide who's heroes, but the person wearing the title, they should have a say in it as well. But look, we're talking about heroes and getting statues. I can't think all these doctors on the front lines, and they're doing an amazing job. But what are we going to do? Are we going to take and build millions of statues now? Just so that they can be torn down the next pandemic, because we say that, oh, it's just the coronavirus is no different than the Spanish flu, and we got over that and we're fine, right?
Yeah.
So just because we change our mind doesn't mean that it doesn't still mark a significant time in history.
Right. And and maybe we should just accept that and let that be. But then, of course, it does offend a lot of people, like it's offending people right now, and they're taking all the slave, drivers and all people who've offended the black people. Those statues are coming down, and people are, like Irfan was saying, Gandhi statues are coming down. So I am undecided which way to go.
So I'm sorry. Did you just say that statues of Gandhi are coming down?
Apparently, yes. That's what Irfan Afzal has said.
Wow.
I didn't know this.
I was not aware of that.
Nor was I. He said earlier. Yeah. There you go.
Wow. And I don't know. I mean, everything I've heard about Gandhi, everything I've heard is loving, peaceful, humanitarian. But I'm sure that there's another side. It's the same as I heard about Churchill. I mean, I've heard about terrible people throughout history, like people like Pol Pot, those types of people.
I'm sorry. Okay. Somebody joined a little while ago, said, Zulfikar Butt actually said that, no, I have joined, I'm watching. I need to remind people that I was testing actually. Facebook does not let you rewind the show. So when you join in, you are stuck at where we are and you have no idea what we're talking about. If you watch this on YouTube, then you can rewind and you can start from the beginning. It's just a choice. You can go to my website and you'll get the YouTube channel links. By next week or maybe a couple of weeks, we will also start parallel broadcasting to Dennis's YouTube. So you need to go to Dennis's website and subscribe to his channels. You need to go to my website, dennistyrell.com. You go to my website, Festa Qureshi, and we would prefer if you watch this on YouTube. It's easy on our bandwidth. It's much better quality. You can rewind. So we would like people to slowly move over to our YouTube channels. So kindly go there, subscribe, and turn on the notification thing, because more and more we're just doing live. We're not really, nor am I, and Dennis is also doing a lot of live. So we're not really doing recorded stuff. So it'd be great if you can just go and subscribe and turn on the bell notification on YouTube. So when you join in late, you can always rewind and watch. So Dennis, mate, should we go to the comments, man?
Yeah, actually, I want to go address this one really first. Irfan, thank you so much. You're always you're always so insightful. I understand your point, Irfan. But they are still human, and I think that's what we need to kind of keep in mind. Is just that there's always another side. It's good more than the mistakes. I guess it depends on which side of that you're on. If my family was killed, then I'm not going to really see that person had a good side, right? So I think it just depends on which side that we're on with that. Again, I agree. I think having heroes are important. I think that it's a part of culture. I think it's it sets people. It shows as an example, right? It shows as an example of who to be. And maybe what I'm doing right now is I'm answering my own question of why we're tearing these things down, because they're examples of a time in history that we don't really either we want to not remember, or we want to completely remove, or we just simply don't want that part of history being repeated. And I can understand that as well. My point really is that at some point we need to just continue to say, wait a minute, this is more neutral, because I'm going to just come out and say, I would venture to say that people from Cambodia, people from Vietnam, if they come and visit the United States, they're probably not going to look at the wall, the Vietnam Memorial Wall with all the names of the dead soldiers on it. They're probably not going to look at that the same as what I've been taught to look at that. So, I think it just depends on which side of history that we're ending up on.
Right. Like Irfan said, if they did more good than evil, then it's okay. But then, tell that to one person whose dad was killed and their life was ruined. They will not. Just one. Forget the thousands and millions.
It's just, kind of like
just the one.
I think it would be very difficult, and I don't know this for a fact, or I'm just using this as an example. I think it would be very difficult for George Floyd's family to see that the police aren't I mean, all they're going to be able to see is the negative side of police work and so forth. So again, there's always multiple sides. I think it's just really important that we understand that all we're seeing of any event is the tip of that iceberg. There's most of the iceberg lives underneath the water that of stuff we can't see. So I think perspective is really, really important in this. As far as a lot of the statues coming down right now, I think, protesting is fun, rioting is fun, and it gives us permission to just kind of, be vandals to some degree. And so now we're just, we're just kind of taking things out instead of keeping it a proper perspective. So yeah, let's get to some comments, FQ.
I just want to show this here because he doesn't get talked about much, but with the internet, he's being talked about more and more. It was all about wealth, man. Just one single man killed 10 to 15 million Africans in 1865 to 1909. One
Wow.
man. And no one, it's 15 million people. That's serious genocide, man.
Right.
But is he a hero? Is he a villain? I don't know.
There were a number of people that thought there were a number of people back in the day that thought Hitler was on the right side of history, right? I mean, and so I think it really depends on belief systems. It depends on a lot of things. To me, there's a question on here: should we really take and redefine hero? I think that I think that we shouldn't just be applying that word. I think that we should be using it a little bit more selectively than what we do these days. I think we apply it to too many situations, but at the same time, yes, I do think that we can redefine it. And let's talk about people. Listen, I mean, I'm sure that I'm going to get some issues, some mail from this as well. But you look at somebody like Mother Teresa. Like all I've heard is like really good stuff, humanitarian, good things, loving people, the poor, all of that. And so why not? If there's a statue of her somewhere, let's tear that down. Let's tear that down and deface that and see the uproar that happens.
Because we could have a difference of faith with her.
Right.
If you want
Absolutely.
to find different, again, I'm really torn today. Yes, you can find differences with anybody, but finding difference with somebody who killed 15 million people, how the fuck can you not find a difference with that man?
Right.
And that too for personal gain and wealth. But then again, that was Leopold. Even today, Africa is being raped and ripped for its resources. I won't even go to say who's doing it.
We have short memories, man. We just do. We have really, really short memories, and we want to take and look at certain situations. And we talk about, Hitler gets brought up a lot, and of course a bad dude. But look at how many people Leopold killed, but at the time, there was context to that. There was context to that. I mean, colonization was going all over. People were trying to get resources.
There's always context. There's always context. You can go to World War I. There was context. Vietnam, there was context.
Sure.
What was Vietnam? It was basically trying to wedge China. I mean, I sent you some links yesterday about South China Sea and this whole Taiwan shit going on.
Right.
Vietnam War was nothing but it's the same chain of events.
Right. So, but if China ends up getting that waterway, right? If they end up getting that waterway, I'm sure that to those people, to the Chinese, the person that makes that happen is going to be looked at as a hero. It's going to be a nationalistic hero, right?
Okay. I think I just got some clarity. Khushbu says just joined. Guys, you need to go to YouTube to watch what's happening. Facebook does not let you rewind. So please go to YouTube, subscribe to our channels. You'll be able to watch it better. Okay, now see, you've taken me to an interesting place. China, the whole South China Sea.
Yeah.
China will survive even if they didn't do that.
Uh-huh.
America, Venezuela, America, Iraq, America, Afghanistan.
Right.
Russia, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Saddam Hussein, Kuwait, Jordan, Syria,
Right.
If everybody was willing to share the resource, in Switzerland, there's no real road system. Do you know that? There's a right-of-way system.
Okay.
So as a result, if you well, of course not the major cities, but when you come out, if you look at Google Maps, you will see these roads just keep going doing this number. Even in Germany, if you not in Berlin or Frankfurt, just 50 miles out of Frankfurt, look at villages, small towns, and you see these roads which have no sense. They just go like this, and they go like this, and they go like this, and then like this, because everyone's land there's a right of way rule. You have to give the right of way to anybody who gets locked in.
Okay.
Right? So traffic has to, if this guy's locked in somewhere with somebody else's land all around, everyone has to give him right of way.
Okay.
So the road cuts through everything. So what I'm trying to say is, if everybody, if we had a right of way rule in the world, there's enough, nobody fucking needs gold, it's worthless.
Right.
All the copper and the bronze and the silver and the uranium and the oil, there is enough oil for everybody.
Right.
There is enough water for everybody. Even if you're fucking 7 billion today, even then there is enough water for everybody. Yet we are killing each other for water. Yet this whole China-America tussle, what is it about? What's it about? It's basically, so China does not become a world superpower. What the fuck use is a superpower?
Right.
America is a superpower. What good is that doing to you right now? Has COVID spared you? So hey, did coronavirus say, oh, we're not going to fuck with the Americans, they're superpowers? Or did coronavirus say, oh, we're not going to kill Chinese because they produce everything, they have a factory for everything, we can't kill the Chinese, let's go kill the No, it doesn't matter if you're India, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia with all the fucking oil coming out of your shithole, if you're Venezuela, the world's largest oil producer, or Iran with oil coming out of their ears, or whoever. What difference does it make, man?
Well, I think it always comes back down to power and control, right? I mean, that's ultimately what it comes down to. And in many things, you look at a lot of these wars, it comes down to bragging rights or simply just being able to say, see, we were right. And you look at how many wars, that when the victor ends up saying, oh, well, it's because God was on our side. That just shows that God was with us in some way. And so now what we've done is we've attached the divine to this. And now don't we really have heroes? I mean, and to your point, like somebody actually, as soon as Donald Trump did get elected, somebody they made a statue of him. They truly did. And you'll need to look that up. They made a statue of him, but the funny part is he was naked. So
yeah. And with a tiny wiener, right?
Right. Well, probably life size.
Probably lifelike, yeah. Probably lifelike.
Yeah. This is also being breaks down because apparently she wanted people to live a simpler life, and she apparently herself. Irfan, you're a person of the world, my friend, and you very well could be correct. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I think that we should reevaluate all of these. I'm just going to say I think it makes a lot better. It makes more sense because as humans, we're pretty simple, and that if you're going to take one statue down and go here, but here's something else in its place. Now all of a sudden we don't have so much controversy over that, right? Because it's being replaced instead of just where a statue came down, and now all we have there is the base, and we're looking at it where there's a base and an empty monument. So I think if we start like taking down all the statues, I mean, what's next? I mean, why not just take all the books and burn them too, and really make it 1984? Why not?
Exactly. See the thing, right? What I was saying, it's not just statues. It's manuscripts of history. It's bloody etchings on walls, stones, and now you'll have to probably go back and erase the Gutenberg book project and remove Google Books as well, because it's all shit and bloody in soft copy now.
Well, we might as well get rid of the Bible.
Erase history.
Yeah, but let's get rid of the Bible too, because we know for a fact that the Catholic Church had several books removed in about 1640. So we know this happened. So let's go ahead and get rid of that too, right? Exactly. I mean, but nobody's saying that.
Interesting. Okay, now I'm constantly going in tangents today, but that's interesting that maybe all that's happening today. This is going to end in a week, 10 days, 15 days. We all know it's going to end eventually, right? That it may have, it may have reduced these heroes and exposed the dark side of everything. Maybe we are going towards a new world where we will question everything, and knowledge will become commonplace, and every bullshit will be taken, with a pinch of salt. Maybe that's where we're going, man.
Yeah, I mean, look at it. Look at now. I mean, we have doctors that we're calling heroes. We have doctors that we're calling heroes because they're going to do their job every single day. But yet we also take like a football player, a soccer player, a cricket player, and they're heroes because they won the game, right? I mean, they had the winning shot. So I think again, we just apply this term to way too many things, and to say that this guy he's a hero because he hit the game-winning home run at the World Series. Like that, how is that a hero? How is that somebody that's like truly putting their life at risk for the greater good? So for me, when I think about that term, statues, monuments, they mark a time in history. If I say, it represents this, I mean, so take a symbol here in the United States that's very polarizing, very controversial, the Confederate flag. There's a number of people that say, that's just a time in history. But what is it still being used for? A statue doesn't move. A statue doesn't move. It doesn't talk. It doesn't say anything. It doesn't represent anything other than a moment in time or somebody that did something, whatever that was. But now
also, if you don't talk about the bloody statue, nobody really knows what's it about. It's just a horse and a dude sitting on it and doing nothing. I mean,
half the time I drive by statues and stuff, and the biggest thing I'm like is like, can we please like clean the bird shit off of that? Like if we're gonna have it, can we at least clean it up? So they really don't. I just don't. I like them. I like to look at them. It's the same as I like to look at a house that's 400 or 500 years old. It's the same as when I've traveled, in the Middle East. I like to see some of these mosques that are extremely old. Should we just tear them down because we don't necessarily believe what the person that built them? Why don't I just think that at some point we just need to take and say, wait a minute, what is it that we're doing? Let's add a little bit of intelligence, add some common sense into this before we just start ripping shit down.
So here's my proposal. Leave all this alone as a work of art, as a record of history, but on the plaque you can say, Winston Churchill, great hero for Britain, asshole for India and Africa and Afghanistan. He helped end the World War II. He also was one of the reasons we had World War II. We write that shit, man. Write both sides. George Washington, great guy, slave driver. Abe Lincoln abolished slavery, had slaves. Let's just correct the record, but don't deface history, and do not deface art.
And there it is. It just comes down to that. To me, this is
nothing but art, man.
I mean, should I be allowed to just go rip a Frida Kahlo picture off the wall because I don't like unibrows? I mean, that's really what it comes down to now. How can that be? How can somebody like that?
You could even go that you actually don't like Frida Kahlo because she had a lot of shit going on too, man.
She did, and actually, that's why I do like her.
Bad boy.
Because she was a regular person, just the same as all of us. We're all very complex, and I think what we do is we take people and we're like, we put them up on a pedestal. There's a guy here in that he came from Arizona. He was one of our football players. Pat Tillman. And as soon as 9/11 happened and so forth, he went and joined the military. He gave up his multi-million-dollar a year contract. He joined the military, and then he ended up getting killed. But what part of that do we not want to talk about? That he was killed by us. We killed him. Friendly fire. Not to diminish his actions. It's just simply to say is that there's always another side to this, and that is somebody truly. Even Pat Tillman's wife comes out and says, hey, he did not want to, don't use his name for this. Don't use his name for that. That is not what he was about. So we the people are the ones that memorialize certain events and time in history and other people. And they might not have even wanted that. So I think that that's an important part of this as well, is let's not take and honor people that really don't just want to kind of stay in the background. I don't think that that's always fair.
Agreed, man. So my conclusion. So my conclusion for tonight is: please leave art alone. Please leave art alone. Please leave history alone. And if you want to correct it, just remove the detailing under the statue or the work of art,
Absolutely.
and write the fact. Just say, hey, this guy did pros, cons, good, bad. And that is it. Leave the art alone, for God's sake.
If we want to memorialize somebody, put that on a headstone. Put that on a headstone and leave it at that. But as far as anything, look at very controversial for a while, the statue of David. Right? The statue of David. David is supposed to be somebody that was a man after God's own heart. God personally chose this individual, but we want to tear the statue down because he's got, because his dick's out. Well, put some pants on it. Put a loincloth around it. Leave art alone.
Not just that one. What is that? Which one? Who did that, David? Which Medici? It was in the house of Medici. Where he's very sissy.
Sure.
Not the Michelangelo, but I'm trying to look for it. Yeah, Donatello.
Donatello, yeah.
And at that time, this was severely controversial, this statue, and it stood in the middle of the, Lorenzo the Great's palazzo. This is the Donatello of David. And this is the Michelangelo. This one is the Michelangelo. I'm sorry, I'm not really bothering to show you a big one. So on the right, you see Donatello.
Mm-hmm.
And then Michelangelo did this one. And both had their wee-wee showing, of course.
Sure.
This is the Michelangelo version.
Right.
So, yeah, at that time, people severely opposed the Donatello version. Mm-hmm. Because it showed the warrior of God as some very effeminate.
Right.
Irfan, Irfan is a very, he's a great friend of mine. I've known him way before I was on media anyway, long time ago. And he has one hell of a brain, as you can see. So Irfan, you should join us one of these days, man.
Irfan, please do join us. And I completely agree with this. As a student of history, that's I completely agree. And that's but that, arrogance. That's what we're talking about, right? Arrogance is always going to be the downfall of man.
Yeah, well, yeah, Hitler was cuckoo.
He was total nuts. Yeah.
Hey, same goes with Russian czars. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely, Kushbu, for sure. You just look at a lot of the statues. Yeah. What
if the art represents atrocities and evil? What's wrong with that?
But art imitates life, right? It's all kind of the same. I still don't think that we need to be taking and destroying anything. I personally don't. It's kind of the same thing. And if you look, I believe it's Arkansas. So FQ, if you can pull that up, I believe it's in Arkansas where they were trying to they were taking down the statue of the 10 Commandments, but the Satanic Church, and I don't even know what the person's name is. What the statue's name is, but that became very controversial.
10 Commandments Monument, Little Rock, Arkansas. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, but there was a satanic church that all wanted to put up their statue.
Got it. Found it, man. Bringing it up now.
Perfect. I don't think that we should. Yeah, so that was controversial because people wanted to, they were saying, oh, the government is paying for it. It came through private funding. But look for the other one where they were going to take and put up the satanic monument.
Yeah.
See if I can find that. Because I forget that individual's name, who the statue was.
The Satanic Temple, 2019.
Oh.
Baphomet statue.
Baphomet. That's the statue of Baphomet. That's the name.
The statue of Baphomet. All right.
Yeah, all kinds of.
But what's wrong with that?
What's wrong with it? I'm not saying anything's wrong with it. I'm simply saying, this is always the argument is, well, it's a free country, but yet you don't, it's a secular country, but yet you allow for these religious monuments, but you're not allowing for this one. And I think what it is it's a matter of, it's a matter of opinion. Personally, I don't care. Baphomet, I think it's just an interesting image, like a lot of things in art. So, Bushra, I appreciate the question. I just don't think that we should be taking stuff like that down. I mean, let's employ a little bit of critical thinking where this is concerned, and some perspective. That all it is it's a statue, it's a painting, it's a depiction of something. I mean, look at the Sistine Chapel, right? I mean, what if you don't believe in the creation story, but you go? I can still go there and look at Adam and God. In fact, I have it. I have it tattooed.
That's a good thing. Let me address what Bushra is saying directly. Bushra, some of the most beautiful art depicts atrocities and evil, and I'm just opening a few for you right now. Some of the greatest masterpieces here. Battle of Centaurus, one of the only pieces Michelangelo did for himself. It was not commissioned art. He did this for himself, and he called it what do you call it? Civilization and something. He called it Civilization and Evil, something like that, and it was built on the Battle of the Nudes this was the piece originally. And then, of course, Guernica by Picasso. It's a war scene. Mm-hmm. Hieronymus Bosch, Garden of Delights. It's full of evil shit, man.
Right.
I had the Garden of Delights on my wall for the longest time. It's only recently when I stopped putting up paintings, the Renaissance and the Baroque, on my walls, because recently I decided to put television screens, multiple screens in this hall, and show art which changes with time. So art is art, my dear friend, and I am obsessed with art. So I will take nothing against art in any form.
No, and I'm the same. And there's plenty of it that I don't like. Plenty of art that I don't prefer. And music is a great example of that.
Oh yeah.
Listen, I mean, I appreciate that somebody like can sing like American country music. But as far I totally appreciate that, the songwriting, being able to sing and be a lyricist and play an instrument and so forth. But I'm not going to listen to it. But I don't want it to stop. I think that's kind of what we're saying. And I want to say, I think with some art, what we're seeing is we're seeing really amazing examples of just how ridiculous political correctness has gotten, in that pretty much anybody can go, well, that's offensive to me. Yeah, but what about the other person that enjoys it? Why does it always come back down to one person's opinion or a group of people's opinion about something, as opposed to taking and saying, you know what, it's really it's neutral. It's way more neutral. Represents the suffering of people. It should be removed. I guess it depends. I don't know.
No. If it's suffering of people today, then it's, how is that fine? Art and music, the two of us can have a discussion with you for 20 days non-stop. You know what? There are a lot of statues of Mary Magdalene. There are a lot of pietas out there. Yeah. The suffering of Mary. Right. So should we remove all pietas from history?
Absolutely.
Every pieta is a very painful piece. Every pieta is pieta by definition is a painful piece.
Listen, I think that one of the things that has been in the United States and FQ where you lived, you might have seen this too, but there were actually statues of people being lynched with nooses around their neck. Listen, and I've heard that, that's glorifying. I don't know that it's glorifying anything. I personally don't want to see that, but I also don't know that it should be removed, because I think as human beings, we need to be reminded of those things so that we don't repeat it.
Go to New Orleans, man. It's full of this stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
New Orleans, Memphis, Mississippi, Tennessee, you see a lot of this art there.
And I just think as humans, we have the ability to say, you know what, listen, it is what it is. I don't prefer it. But why does it have to come down just because it takes and makes somebody feel a certain way? Bushra,
Okay, here.
listen, I respect your opinion. I just don't agree with you. So I absolutely respect your opinion. I understand where you're coming from. I just don't agree. Yeah,
No,
but thank
I,
you.
but I agree with her. But then I want to open it. Yes, I agree. If it reminds you of the injustice done, it should be removed. Hang on, then. Then what about news, which constantly shows a crime? Okay. Then
What was Jesus killed for?
If you want to take the art away, if it's a reminder, then the whole news about George Floyd should be removed. All the riots and all the protests against George Floyd reminds his family of his murder should not be done.
I mean,
and all internet mentions of the event should be removed then.
Then let's remove the crucifix as well. Because everything I've read, Jesus was a perfect human being. He was without sin, and he was crucified unjustly. That's the narrative I was taught. But yet people wear that around their neck as a remembrance of the suffering. So I think it really just depends on the perspective. And the cool part of this is that as a human, as somebody with cognitive abilities, as somebody with agency, I get to decide. I get to decide how it affects me and what it means and represents to me. What I don't think I have the right to do is to tell somebody else what it means or what they should be feeling particularly about that. Pyramid Church's monsters.
We were about to quit and
no, it's getting good now.
Down here. It's these guys have lit a fire. Art and music, two things that'll light a fire and both our asses, man.
To this one, Maureen, who built the pyramids? Who built the pyramids? They weren't really free people. They were slaves.
Yeah.
And I'll
slaves
tell you,
and whips, man.
I looked when I was there visiting the Great Pyramids of Giza. Like it's amazing. The structures are absolutely amazing. But they were built by slaves. I mean, they just were. So I mean, was there not suffering in slavery? Of course there is. But yet the pyramids are one of the biggest tourist attractions of today.
Oh, or how about the Great Wall of China?
Absolutely.
Or that road in Russia, which is called, what's it called, that road? I think it has 1 million dead bodies paved in it.
Oh,
the one that goes through, the road that cuts through Siberia, there's a name for it. It's called the road that cuts across Siberia. It has an endless number of people buried in there. It's 11,000 kilometers, and it's got shitload of people buried.
Right. And I'm just going to say, FQ, I think it's interesting, when we talk about taking something down that depicts suffering or an injustice, I think that we also have to remember that there's a lot of transference going on. There's a lot of, because I find it offensive, it means everybody else does. That's not true. That is just not true. Just because I find something distasteful doesn't mean that anybody else does. So it's just interesting how we get together, we form these groups, and it's what I like to refer to these types of people as they're called BWs, bandwagoneers, right? They jump on a bandwagon because it's popular. They want to. That's a cause for them to get behind, or anything like that. So I think that art, beauty, ugliness, depravity, that's all within the eye of the beholder. It just is. I mean, so I'm going to come out and say it. I have, over the course of my psychology career and coaching career, I have actually worked. I had clients of mine that were entertainers in the adult film industry. You know what? At the end of the day, that's what they did for a living, and they would. I see as a psychologist, I can see all kinds of problems and challenges that come from being in that industry. We want to say that because we like that because it helps us to normalize it instead of being and to say that something's wrong with it or there's all these downsides. We focus on that.
It only makes us feel better about ourselves that we've said our thing. We've said our piece. That's all.
Absolutely.
We don't give a shit about it, man. Oh, we said our piece. We spoke about it. So
Right.
I'm okay.
Right.
Yeah? It's such a horrible thing. I won't do shit about it. I might even sit and watch it. Oh, how sad. Okay, two interesting comments. I'm sure people will remove the statue of Trump's place. And Marine says, no, we will keep it, throw stones at it.
I don't think if there is a statue that goes up, I don't think that should be taken down either. It is a time. It is a time in history, and in 100 years from now, people need to remember that fuck. And that's what they need to do, is be able to go, oh, we don't want to repeat that. We better make sure we go to the polls. We better make sure we vote. I don't think we should be taking that stuff down. That's my personal opinion. It's kind of like, can we stop like waving the Confederate flag? Sure. Yeah. But should we remove monuments where that was on there? Like it represented a region. So it has come to mean something else now. The monuments, I don't think we should take down, but maybe we should stop waving that flag everywhere. And because now the only time we see that flag is at white nationalist protests. Or rallies. I don't know what they're protesting other than not everybody in the world is white right now.
They're talking about the paintings in Hagia Sophia. I don't know. All the paintings in Hagia Sophia from the Byzantine era, and they're from what I remember, they're nice pictures. In fact, I have a few of them which hang on my walls here. So there's nothing controversial there, but just the Ottomans were really nice. That when they took over the churches, they did not remove the art, because the early Ottomans were normal. The later Ottomans were cuckoo, and that's why they don't exist anymore. But the early Ottomans were all right. And then they went totally bizarre. Well, that's about that, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't think I've missed anyone. Bushra is quite upset. Okay, guys, I'm going to...
Oh, is this the road that you were talking about? R504?
No, well, that's probably its official name. But there's another name. It's called the Road of. It's no. There's a word for it. I'll look it up tomorrow. Yeah, I think it's called the Dead Road.
Oh wow!
I'll look it up later, but I think it's called the Dead Road because built. See, Russia for the longest time would sell all their political opponents and anybody they didn't like, they were sent to Siberia.
Yes, I know that.
Put to work. They were put to work on the shit.
I wouldn't last like even 2 minutes in Siberia. No way. Too cold for this guy.
And also, why do you want to stay alive when shit like that? It'll kill me, motherfucker. Get it over with. You'll pay for it. My life is done anyways. Why?
Right.
You're going to kill me today? You're going to kill me in 6 months. Kill me today. And listen, you know what?
Yeah.
You're going to get screwed for killing me. I'm going to heaven because you killed me. So why become miserable and die? So yeah, okay. I couldn't find that name. I'll look it up later. Maybe share tomorrow. So I repeat, please try to watch this on YouTube so you guys can rewind. And Khushbu, Bushra, Zulfikar, Irfan, Rafia, Mehreen, all of you guys have a lot of interesting shit to say. So please join us whenever you want to join us on the transmission. Just put a message here, and I'll send you the link, and you guys can come in and share your views. That was really FQ. Which mini statue placed at your back? So the two. One's Donald Duck, because I really like this guy. Well, no, I don't like this guy. I think he's an evil genius. And then I've got Mr. Bean, who I think is really cool.
Awesome.
And this is just a samurai. I don't know who he is. This one I need to look up. I think it's not Victory. It's a replica of an art piece. I don't know which one it is.
So I just want to say, kind of in closing, one of the things I love is our ability to, for those that watch this show, other than like the trolls who are just like there to make themselves, make themselves important. But I really enjoy the fact that we can disagree and still love one another, because at the end of the day, all we're talking about is opinions. And what's more important is that we find the commonality with each other, and that's truly the way that we can find and empathize with each other. Not by just focusing on our differences, not focusing on art that's destroyed or statues. I do understand that and realize that times change, therefore meanings change. I'm just simply very, very appreciative of everybody that has a dissenting opinion than mine, because you help me to learn. You help me to learn, and you help me to grow. And I think that's what we're all here to do. So thank you so much.
Same here, man. And we're not here to change the world. Frankly, we're just having fun. So it's all in good spirit, nothing serious. Thank you very much for us. Thank you. That's it, man. It's called the Road of Bones. And it has 250,000 people. 250,000 people
and
are
see,
buried.
Never heard of this. Never heard of this until today. So again, this stuff happens all the time. I don't think that we should take and tear up that road. I think we should honor and memorialize the people that are buried in that road. It's kind of like there's a dam here in Arizona. I think it's a Hoover Dam, and there's supposed to be that, like, there was a lot of controversy surrounding that and slave labor, indentured servitude, and so forth. But a lot of people are buried inside of that, is what I've been told. Yeah. I don't think we should tear that down. If we tear that down, guess what? The whole place floods. So I think we just have to keep perspective on what it is that we're doing, and remember our humanness. Khushbu, thank you so much. May God bless you as well.
Thank you very much, Khushbu. Really appreciate it. All right, guys. Until tomorrow night.
Till tomorrow.
And
take care.
Again, please go to YouTube, subscribe, and turn the notification on there. You'll be able to view better quality, horizontal full screen, and rewind. So go to YouTube.
Absolutely.
Later.
Thank you so much. Peace and love.